Good evening. Welcome to Monday, February 17th, City Council meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 3 is hearing of public concern. With that, item number 4, Clerk-Treasurer report.
Yes, council is in receipt of the financial statements, the bank statements, bank reconciliation, all the normal stuff for the month ended January 31st. Bank reconciliation looks a little bit different than what it's looked like in the past because of the method we're using in the new software. But otherwise, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Perfect.
A little difference is what's explained between last year and this year.
Just kind of the way it's laid out, we identify each of the different bank accounts that we have, and
The dollar amount, I meant, like 122K more.
He's talking about the income tax increase. Yeah,
That's-
yeah. So January of last year, if we counted that, we're up
Did the-
13.5.
that is correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, January, and early in the year, it's very, very unpredictable. It might not mean anything that January was up, but in a few months, we'll have a better trend.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if it was on.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Do we approve that?
Yeah.
Oh, I move to approve.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 5 is a resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 13, 2025, a resolution to accept a $5,430 donation from various sponsors to the Parks and Recreation Department for the Fountain City Amphitheater.
Council, we would greatly appreciate you approving this ordinance so that Parks and Rec can have this money next meeting or after appropriated into their account for the amphitheater line. Certainly would like to add the 14 additional donors to our thanks for amphitheater events.
I'll move to suspend.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I do have a question, though. Is this list, and it's specifically the list, the spelling of all the names on this list?
Patton Lowood needs a no on it. Yeah.
Okay. So I was afraid that would be something that would be used in a different place and that wouldn't be caught.
Nope, they'll catch it at the clerk's office.
All right. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I caught it too, right about 2 seconds before you did.
And I move to approve.
I'll second.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 6 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 5, 2025, an ordinance providing for annual appropriations for the city of Bryan for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring an emergency. I hate to do this so often, but this is an amended appropriation. It actually authorizes the expenditure of the funds you just accepted and some insurance money received for one of our city vehicles that was in an accident.
Was that the police cruiser?
This one was a streets.
Oh.
Street Department pickup
Street
truck.
Department? Okay.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 7 is a resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 14, 2025, a resolution authorizing the Clerk-Treasurer to advertise for bids for the project known as Waterline Replacement Project, East Mulberry Street, 700 to 900 blocks.
Good evening. Last fall, we applied for 2 projects through Public Works. One was the South Walnut Sanitary, which you guys authorized me to advertise for bids last month. And this is the Waterline Replacement Project for East Mulberry. We did receive $275,000. It's around a $600,000 project. Now, you're probably going to ask me, why am I asking permission to bid a waterline project that you guys are not going to pay for? Because the City of Bryan is the grant applicant, because we're a municipal corporation, so we apply on behalf of the City of Bryan and Bryan Municipal Utilities. The mayor's signatory for it. I'm the project manager, and John is the CFO per the grant agreement. So the project must be bid through should be bid through our office. That way, all the paperwork stays in line. So I'm asking for permission to advertise for bids for this. We will award the project in July after we get the grant agreement, and the Utilities Office, Board of Public Affairs is going to run a similar resolution through theirs as well, authorizing the bid.
So the technical piece of going through this, who does it? I understand, but who does the actual supervision? Is it
They will.
DMU?
Yeah, they'll do the construction inspection.
Okay.
We'll take care of the prevailing wages on it because it's our project.
Okay.
So, but it'll be a joint project, but they're funding everything on it.
Yeah.
Now, did I hear you correctly? You'll be approving the bids or giving the bid out in July?
Yeah, we're going to advertise for bids directly. ORC says we need to award the project within 30 days. We're putting a specification in there that says we are not going to award it in 30 days. We're going to award it after July. The grant agreement comes out around July 1st. And once it's executed, then we can actually award the bid. But we want to advertise for bids now to try and get a better price, and then maybe it'll fit in their time schedule a little bit better. And some waterline fittings are 6 to 9 months out for brass.
And this is similar to what you did before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the idea is to have this completed yet this
Yes.
calendar year?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our completion date will be November 1st, I believe. We still have to work that out, but it depends on the material price, or not price, the material availability. If we have trouble getting brass for the cork stops and whatnot, which South Lynn Street project, it took a year to get some of the extra fittings. They put the water main in, and it was done this spring, and they didn't come back until October to make the connections because they just couldn't get the brass. So I would request you suspend the rules and authorize me to advertise, please.
I move to suspend.
Second.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Move to approve?
I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is a resolution. Please number and read.
Resolution number 15, 2025, a resolution authorizing the city engineer of the City of Bryan, Williams County, Ohio, to apply for grants through the community project funding sources for the City of Bryan, Williams County, Ohio, as necessary.
So, first meeting of the year, you guys authorized me to apply for grants, and there was 4 or 5 specific ones, and it said, and others. But this is a pretty big grant that's out there that the mayor found for us. And I just want to get a project-specific approval to advertise or to actually apply for these grants. And we're going to look at 2 projects. One of them will be a waterline replacement on South Portland Street from Center to South Street. Now, the last time we paved Portland Street, the water line broke in a couple spots just because it's an older AC water line. So Portland Street is in need of repaving in the next couple years. I don't want to do it until we fix the water line. So the mayor helped us find this grant, and we're going to apply for that as a joint project with BMU, and they're going to do the same resolution tomorrow night. They'll take care of the water line portion. We'll take care of the street portion. It's going to be around $1 million project we're looking at, and we're still not 100% sure on the match funding, maybe 10 to 20% out of pocket, but there's a sweet spot in there that I don't think all the provisions of the grant are even out yet. I think they said get our project, get it narrowed down, and then before we submit the grant, they'll help us fine tune what our leverage funds would be. So we're looking around $1 million with maybe 10 to 20% out of pocket. And a sanitary sewer project, I have sewers that need replaced, so I'm just going to throw a dart at the wall and pick another $1 million project and apply for that as well. One good thing about this grant is it's not restrictive to low to moderate income areas. Like the critical infrastructure grants, it must be low to moderate income areas. This Portland Street is not LMI. So I really don't have any good funding sources for grants for this particular project. So this is really going to be a good fit. If we want to get the road and the water replaced on there, it'll be a good fit for it. So I'm just asking permission to apply for this grant.
How far down on South Portland are you looking to go?
We're just going to go from center to south,
Okay.
2,600 feet of water line.
I'm just curious which side, down the middle side?
In the pavement, all the holes are on the east side where the water line had broke.
Okay.
So, but they'll move it somewhere.
I'm just concerned about getting calls about potential driveways being disrupted.
I'm sure there will be driveways disrupted when we do the project.
I
Yeah.
mean, cement taken up.
No, I do not anticipate, we haven't designed this project yet. We're just kind of roughing out the estimate, but I do not anticipate it will be sidewalks or curbing or drive approaches affected.
Good.
If it is, the entire drive approach will be removed and replaced as is. The slope won't change or anything won't change. Just depends on where the water line can fit, where we can thread the needle. But I assume it'll stay in the road.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
John,
Yes,
and Mary.
Yes.
and I'll move to approve.
second,
Steve,
Yes.
John,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You might as well stay
Yeah.
right there.
Might as well stay right here.
Annual
Okay,
report-
annual
report.
reports.
Yep.
I always giggle a little bit every time I do these because I'm here all the time telling you what we're doing, so we'll just give you the truncated version this year. We'll basically go over the projects we did last year, just one last time. Asphalt program, $490,000. As you remember, we paved part of Colonial Lane, Union Place subdivision, Eastland Woods, Autumn Chase, and Youse subdivision. What we try and look for is 16 to 20-year pavement life cycle, and as long as we can get that out of it, we're in good shape. Pavement marking program, that's a every year project, $132,000. It's amazing that it costs $132,000 to repaint the stripes every year, but we need to do it and keep up with it. So, East Village addition street improvements, $619,000. This one was a partial complete replacement. If you remember, we talked, the curbing was good, but the road just kept breaking up because the stone underneath it was just junk. It had clay in it. It was like a sponge. You would pave it, the water would expand, the road would break up. We had done a couple of test patches in a neighborhood there, and those seemed to hold up really well, so we went ahead and did a large-scale project last year, and it really turned out nice. I don't anticipate any problems. South Meyer Street Sanitary Sewer Project, that was actually awarded last fall to S&S Directional Boring for $820,000. We did get $275,000 of OPWC funding. Now that project, we just had a pre-construction meeting on it a week or two ago, and I'm just getting ready to send letters out to the residents to let them know that we're probably going to start in April on this. We just had to kind of fine tune. Again, it was a material issue, trying to get material in, but they're going to get in here and replace that. And again, it's in the rear yards like it was on the west side of town, but it's 50, 60, 70-year-old clay sewer that just needs replaced. So looking forward to finishing that. Summarizing some of the grants we got last year, $512,000 for the North Main concrete replacement. Now that's programmed through ODOT. We're starting off the design on it. That won't be funded, actually completed till 2026. So I'm hoping the concrete will hold up another winter up there and not break up. We may have to do some spot patching, but that'll cover at least 80% of the project. South Meyer Street Sanitary, we just talked about that, $275,000 of grant funds will cover 50%. Safe Routes to School Phase 2, that was bid, we've awarded that. We're gonna start that this spring sometime. $261,000 of grant will cover 90% of the project. Southland Waterline, we had also talked about that. We received $245,000 in critical infrastructure and $275,000 in Ohio Public Works for Utilities Office. Other two grants we applied for that will be executed in 2025, which was, again, we just talked about, East Mulberry Street Waterline and South Walnut Sanitary, $275,000 and $175,000 respectively. Code enforcement, you can see there the current year's numbers with the past years in the parentheses, showing our grass and weed violations, junk motor vehicles. Junk motor vehicles are really down this year compared to last year, so I don't know if Sean's not trying that hard or if he just doesn't have that many. So, but we haven't had a lot of complaints that I've heard about, so I think Sean's doing a pretty good job. He had 136 cases investigated, 15 still pending A couple of them are estates that the people are not alive, and we're still trying to figure that out. So, next slide, please. Zoning division, you can see the commercial and residential projects, pretty much flat year to year. Andy's violations that he had was down a little bit, like for structures and pools, and he had only 4 citations issued, 16 pending, 57 corrected. And then he also sends out every year warnings for like roofing and siding. If 20% of your surface coating is bad on the house, he'll send you a warning letter and say, hey, you might want to start budgeting this. And people usually get mad and say, why are you citing me right now? Oh, we're not really citing you. It says it's a warning, it's upcoming, just try and plan ahead a little bit. So other tasks we do, responsible for traffic control devices. We assist BMU with projects if necessary. Same thing with parks and wastewater if they need our help. Street department, like Tyson will say, we'll help plow snow if needed, and we have our zoning and building department in-house. 2025 goals, about the same as every year. We try and get as many grants as we can to further our 0.5% income tax fund. We'd like to see joint water and pavement projects, and I say that because water projects usually rank higher than sewer projects do. So if I can throw a road in with a water project, I'm all for it, because they can get more points for that than I can with the sanitary. So I kind of have the utilities office help us out with some funding. Again, more sanitary sewer replacement, and I want to update my 10-year capital improvement plan. It took me 14 years to get through the last 10-year plan, so I want to get that updated here this summer and try and get a 10-year plan. And then continue with our commercial and industrial clean water investigations, which Wes talked about in his report as well. Upcoming projects for next year, asphalt program, $650,000 budgeted. Pavement marking, $135,000 anticipated. Lincoln Park sanitary sewer replacement, $400,000. Now that'll include the sewer on the north side of Lincoln Park in the alley, and we're also going to do some ADA parking in there to go with the all the sidewalks that have been done in there. Safe routes to school phase 2, $300,000 anticipated. Blakesley Avenue reconstruction, $650,000 anticipated. South Walnut sanitary sewer replacement. Again, that'll be bid here shortly, awarded in the summer. $500,000 anticipated with $175,000 through OPWC. And we also budgeted $250,000 to reshingle the perimeter of the Don North building here. The shingles keep blowing off, and they were just stapled on, and they've lived their life. It's been 25 years, and they're 25-year shingles, so we're going to try and take care of that this summer as well. And any questions?
Yeah, on the violation division, structural warnings,
Yep.
there looks like about 218 or so, 36 corrected, and you mentioned that a lot of them are just pending because here's an issue you need to fix, so I presume the pending is they've been informed they need to fix them, is that correct?
Or it's in court, heading to court,
Okay.
or they're in the process, maybe they needed to re-roof it, and they said, hey, could we have 9 months to do this?
Second question, thank you. Second question is there a gradient? I would be concerned if it just needs re-roofed, or it looks like it's gonna fall in, it's a safety issue. So does he have the latitude of saying this needs fixed, like now?
Yeah, if he can issue a citation, or I can condemn a portion of the
Okay.
structure.
All
So
right.
yeah, we do have that latitude.
All right, thank you.
Typically, the condemnation of a structure, it's not really taken care of in the zoning division. That's administratively handled by me. We're working on a couple commercial projects right now with the attorney to try and get some of those condemned and cleaned up. But yeah, he does have latitude. If it's really bad, he'll let me know. And like, we have some sheds and garages that we've condemned, and they just have to knock them down. So yeah, we do have the latitude.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Bryan?
thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the fire annual report.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So, got a couple extra pages in your book. I'm going to give you the short version. As you can see, our numbers are trending up, and this primarily has to do with the first responder calls. Last year was our first year where we did all 12 months with first responder. Last year, we started this about June, so it really started to pick up. And, yeah, we've tripled the number of incidents per year, and we're on pace this year. Nothing's going to change with that. So this is a breakdown of what we've done. I looked back through last year. Really, the numbers are fairly close, close to about 4 or 5 anywhere you look at that, except for the EMS runs. Again, that's the majority of what's there. Last year was 72%, so we're almost 80% EMS runs. Again, that's where we're spending our time. That's where we're out the door.
Chief,
Fires are
can I
real
ask
close,
you a
yes.
question related to that? And if it's inappropriate, that's okay. I can
It
bring
might
up-
be handled in
I
my
can bring
state
it up
of the
later.
city, but.
But when I saw this, and recent information has that we're looking at potential collaboration on emergency services, how would that, if we're already significantly, predominantly driven by that, is that going to affect us even more so that we need to do something in terms of hiring other people and/or vehicles?
The immediate answer is no, it is not. It may change some operations a little bit, but the call volume should not change.
Oh, okay.
As we're anticipating right now, as we're going to almost every EMS run they have, and like the other day, we had about 5 at the same time, and we were able to handle several but not make all.
Okay.
There were a lot of ambulances from all over coming in to handle that. And it was drop a patient, go to the next is a lot of what was going on. So we're handling multiple calls right now along with them. I don't anticipate the number to go up, but it may have some operational changes, and we'll just have to see how that shakes out as we go forward.
No,
But yeah,
thank you
good
very much.
question.
I'm sorry I interrupted. That was heavy on my mind.
No, and I'm going to speak about it before I do my state of the city and apologize because it hit the paper before it hit you, and I try not for that to happen, but we kind of were, I'll explain it later. Sorry to do that.
Again, where do we go to our calls? Most of our calls are in Bryan. Even with the EMS runs, that percentage is staying very consistent across the board. We're still going out into the townships at about the same percentage level. The total volume obviously has increased, but we're not seeing huge variations that we're running any place other than mostly in Bryan. This is one I'm kind of happy with. This is our response time from time of call to show up on scene. That's drive time, everything. This is down almost a minute from last year's same numbers. So we're getting out the door faster, which I'm happy to have. Just an overview of calls per month and hours by day. This is very similar to what we've seen in past. Obviously, the total numbers are up, but by month, there's no huge trend anywhere along the line that really changes one year to the next. Obviously, February being a little shorter month, we see a few less calls. Other than that, really not a lot. Time of day, it stays pretty consistent. About 6 o'clock, it starts cranking up, and somewhere around 7, 8 o'clock at night, it starts to trend down. We still have overnight calls, but that volume really changes, and that's where we've seen this for many years.
So I have a question for you in regards to that, because John beat me to one of my other questions already. Noting that you've got that 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes.
time slot, and noting also earlier that you talked about the significant increase in EMS runs. Is there a correlation between that 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. that the majority of them are tending or trending towards EMS, or is the EMS happening across the board?
Across the board, all the way through. Again, a lot of that 6 o'clock, people waking up, getting started in the morning, heading to work, that's everything. have a fire, see something, they don't feel well, it's getting up and it kind of trends through. Overnight, we're seeing fire calls, we're seeing smoke alarms, we're seeing somebody fell out of bed. I mean, it's a consistent number, percentage-wise, across the board, any time of day. It just, we know that call volume jumps up when people start waking up. When people are awake, that's when most of the calls are occurring. The overnight stuff just tends to drop down.
Does that change over the summer months, since people are
A
usually
little bit
up later?
later. Some significance to that, but it's almost more of a special event day, may drive it more than anything else. St. Patrick's Day on a Friday or Saturday as opposed to middle of the week. The 4th of July, same type of thing. If that holiday falls into a weekend where it's a long weekend, you might see a few more incidents there than normal. But really, there aren't trends that are jumping out anywhere. They're saying, yep, this is, we know that it's always a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. We've looked at the Monday through Sunday, and yeah, it's flat. It really doesn't matter. Full moon is as much as anything, so.
You don't know anything about that with children?
No, I don't know anything about full moons.
Yeah.
Fire causes, I can say this year that we haven't left anything that's still pending. Last year, we had a few that we were still trying to clear up. We have a number that are undetermined after investigation, just not actually able to lock in the exact cause, but we have determined that they're not human involvement. I guess that's kind of how we look at those. We don't suspect that somebody did it intentionally. And we can't say if it was mechanical or if it was just an unintentional event. So they get listed as undetermined after investigation. And some of those, we've had the state fire marshal in, and they concur with us. They just can't find a reason for it. So that's where those are. Again, we are doing a little bit better with intentional fires. We had about 10 last year, so a little bit better on that side. That it just ups and downs. Fire prevention section, the inspections we did this year, this is almost double what we got last year. Just getting some things going and getting some processes moving. We've been able to increase the number of commercial inspections we're doing. We have to go into the schools every year. We're required to by state law. We go into the daycares every year, and we do group homes as they're required. There are some other facilities that will ask us to come in, but a lot of these are just us walking out, going and selecting an area and working through it to get inspections done. We also do fire alarms, suppression systems, final inspections before they get their occupancy permit. We get the last look at it to make sure they're fire compliant. The education, we do a number of extinguisher programs for industry and commerce throughout, as well as some of the nursing homes. We've got our fire safety program at the school, safety tours, station programs, our other community events. We kind of estimate these numbers because some of them it's large crowds. We see about 2,000, we make contact with about 2,000 people over the year. We have a smoke detector program that's been in place for a number of years. We say that seconds count in a fire, so we pick the second graders and make sure they all get a smoke detector. And that project is funded by the Volunteer Fire Company. Fire training. Our training academy is a state-accredited academy. Right now, we are training volunteer fire certification, Fire 1, Fire 2. We can do EMS continuing ed, firefighter continuing ed, and we're live fire qualified as well. There are a couple of new programs that are coming out this year. We will get certified for those as well. We've had some of the best attendance that we've seen in a number of years, which is a positive for the growth of the community. Unfortunately, we've only had one of our people going through this class, but in the last year. But we're seeing a big influx from the surrounding counties, sending their folks here through the academy. And we've got some other training that we're doing as well out at the training center. Our UAS, our drone operations, pretty limited this year, but we did get out and do some work for the parks. A lot had to do with the Lincoln Park, the Inclusive Park, helping them out. And we were also asked to assist the Village of Edgerton with some issues that they had over there. This is our list of apparatus. Really, the only change from last year is we no longer have an ambulance on this list. The ambulance that we had bought used broke down, needed a pretty major repair to it, and it was just not cost efficient, so it was sold last year. This is our current roster. This is down about 2 people from last year, a couple that we had in the academy, and then currently I have 1 vacant spot in our full-time staff. But I have a number of paid-on-call applications sitting on my desk that I need to process that we've just recently received. So I'm pretty happy with the numbers here. That's all I have. Any questions for me other than the ones I've answered?
Just a quick question for you.
Sure.
Noting your apparatus and stuff, and again, the big jump in numbers. Are we looking at increased wear and tear on the equipment that is responding to these?
What we're doing right now is most of the EMS calls are going with our, what we'll call a first responder vehicle. We have one of the old chief's vehicles. It's a 2013 Tahoe, and we're driving the wheels off of it right now. If it makes it until I retire, they can have my car and they can replace it for the next chief. That's kind of where our hope is with that vehicle. But yeah, we're using a utility vehicle for most of those runs. Occasionally we'll catch while we're out on some other business, and we'll take the fire engine to that because it's fully equipped to handle those EMS calls as first responders. We actually have 3 vehicles that are set up, so we can take multiple calls at the same time if we have the staff available to support that operation. And we've done that. We've been multiple places at the same time.
The ladder truck.
Yes.
I know we've had
Oh,
some issues in the
the
past.
good news
Passed its
was,
test.
the good news was, they got our cable fall of last year, over the summer, and we got that in. We were able to get recertified. We recertified again in the October. So we are fully functional and working. Again, not putting a lot of time and miles on it, but it is functioning properly, and we are still certified. We're now 31 years old with that vehicle, and it's in good shape. If there was one part to save from it, they tell us that if you pull the ladder off, you can save half. Well, at a $2 million vehicle, that's still $1 million to put a chassis underneath it. And you still got an old ladder. That's the thing to remember. We're not quite at the grant phase. We're a couple of years out from really getting the highest grading on that. And maybe in the next few years that will change. But right now, it's worth applying, but it's probably not going to make it because it's very competitive, and if you're not in the top tier, probably not going to make that.
With that, you do have a truck committee.
We do have a truck committee for this year. We're actually looking to replace one engine and the rescue. And if you're looking, that rescue is in 1986, and we will probably replace the 1983 Pierce. The Mack was refurbished in '89, so it's got a few newer things on it. It also has a fully enclosed cab. The Pierce is a half cab, so the back portion is open. Our anticipation is to replace the rescue and the reserve pump with one truck. It will be a little bit larger, and right now, we started this vehicles. Last year, they talked about somewhere around 900,000. They're telling me now we're probably just over $1 million for that same vehicle because EPA restrictions to engines has added $100,000 to every diesel engine that you put into a truck right now. And then some additional costs that we knew would come. So, yeah, it's going to be right around that million mark, but they're still telling us 3 years out from the time we order. Nothing's getting any quicker on that. Yeah, I will not be here to see that truck arrive. I will retire
So
before
you
then.
say.
Thank you for this, though. That was something else I was curious in, so I
I
appreciate you.
understand.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
One more.
Oh, no.
Oh, no,
thank
he
you.
said
No,
thank
no,
you.
oh, I thought you said you. Nope, we're good.
Okay, up next is the State of the City by the Mayor.
Am I okay to do it from the seat since I have to move? So before I start the state of the city, I do want to talk a little bit about the EMS, the first responder calls for fire. As most of you know, when I began this journey as mayor, it was something I wanted to try to do, collaborate with especially the county, but other communities on ways that we could enhance services, especially in the name of public safety, as that is our primary job and responsibility to the citizens, as well as potentially save money. So the EMS conversation is not new to many of you. It is something that we have tried to collaborate with the county EMS and commissioners over the years. What has changed recently is a couple levy failures when EMS asked for money and commissioner leadership. So in the last year and a half, Chief Poole and I made an agreement with EMS and the county to dispatch us because they run Central 911, so any 911 cell phone call in the county goes to them. They agreed to dispatch our first responders. We did have that ambulance. At no point was there an agreement for us to use that with the county. When they had the mechanic issue, and it was a pretty big price tag, the chief and I decided that we would just sell that on GovDeals because it's just wasting space and we weren't going to invest in a vehicle that we couldn't actively use. So they'd been using other fire vehicles. Obviously, we didn't want to run the $1 million fire truck out, so we were finding ways to use other vehicles to run those out. We have staffing. We have supplemented with part-time. There's been a change where they're working 24-hour shifts versus the whole everybody was in there for 8 hours a day. So that part is already, just with the change in lack of volunteers, that's already changed and transferred. What's different now is the commissioners have told EMS recently that they want to get a 90-day plan together so that we can start potentially running patients in an ambulance that they own. Before that happens, we would have an MOU drafted either by their prosecutor or our city attorney, and it would come before council for approval. So there is what I think the chief and I would call a napkin sketch of this is what we're willing to do and what we can do. And they then gave that to the EMS crew, and so we're going to have some meetings. I don't know that there will be an EMS vehicle in our firehouse in 90 days. I certainly am not opposed to slowing down the conversation to make sure that fire and EMS are very comfortable with how this works, because the ultimate goal is quick, reliable, effective service to our citizens within our fire district. So we want to make sure that we have a really good plan before we just roll something out. With that being said, it could be 90 days. I mean, we'll see how this goes, but we're going to have those intense conversations of what we can do, what they need, but we've made some big steps. One being in the last year and a half, we've been able to run first responders with their EMS calls, so we go to. Sometimes we can get there before they can, depending on where their life squads are, which helps because most of our firemen are EMT trained. And if they're not, they're working on it. So I guess the other big piece is that I basically told them, we're not going to buy another ambulance, so if we want to do this, you have to provide the ambulance for us to run, and they've agreed to that. The other piece, we have the same medical director, and everyone has now agreed that our training officer can get trained by the EMS team and then train our firemen. So for their recertifications, their annual permit, when they expire, we can do that in-house now, which makes it a lot easier to get some of our part-time firemen that maybe are only in the city for 2 days a month to get them recertified. So there's been some positive steps going. We hope they continue. I apologize. I got a call from a commissioner after that meeting happened that said, oh, by the way, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, well, by the way, we need a written MOU we can all agree on that council and the commissioners passed before. But I'm optimistic on how the conversations are going because I do think it's better for our citizens. And I think it will help alleviate some of the stress on the county EMS system in an effort to collaborate with them. Because we have really, really great firemen, first responders as well. So, any questions on that? No?
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
That is definitely our hope, and we're gonna, keep the positive momentum going forward. But I do want to assure you there will be no actual anyone moving anybody in an ambulance from Bryan Fire until you guys have approved an MOU.
So, yeah, I think it sounds very positive. Does this have any effect on a future county levy for EMS?
That's a commissioner answer. I can't really answer that. I think that the voters telling them no twice did make them maybe
Yeah, so they're
get a
saying,
little more creative in thinking outside of the box.
so that answers my question for the moment, which is, so they're seeing this as an alternative to a levy currently.
I think that they are going to use us as a test, and it may expand to other fire
Okay.
stations throughout the county.
No, that's
if
good
it's
enough, I
effective.
appreciate that, thank you.
Oh,
And the reason that it would be best suited for us is because we do have a 24/7
Right.
fire department.
Yeah,
Good.
So we have people on station.
well, if it ends up helping with the levy and stuff for EMS, and their financial issues,
Yeah.
it's a good move.
I mean, they may still have to go and ask for additional money, but they are willing to try other avenues, which I have to commend them for, definitely. Okay?
Good.
So again, apologies, I try not to have you read things in the Bryan Times, but Mr. Kohler was very quick on that.
I try to have you actually do this.
Yeah, I know. It was very quick. I think you had it written before I even knew it happened. So, thank you. All right, I will go ahead and start the State of the City for 2025. Again, we always start with the org chart, which you guys are very familiar with. We have added, as I like to remind you, an HR, as well as IT that's actually on the BMU side, but is paid for by the city and shared by costs from Bryan Municipal Court. Under Parks, we have the Volunteer Park Board and Tree Commission, and under Engineering is the Zoning Administrator and Planning Commission. City employees, we are at a total of 129. This does include BMU employees. We did have an open position in the prosecutor's office, but we were able to fill that with a full-time employee last month. And we have one open in fire for a full-time fireman. And then I think we have 3 in the police department that we anticipate we should be able to fill this summer based on academy numbers. Budget and planning comparisons, this is going to look a lot different, and I actually went over this today with our clerk-treasurer because some of the numbers from my last year's did not match, and I thought for sure Mr. Betts was going to have that written down. But with that being said, there's just a little difference in the way Lori would do general balancing and budgeting and what is regarding encumbrances being opened or closed at the end of the year. So when you see a little fluctuation in the numbers, especially between 2016 and 2022, it's that encumbrance piece and how the clerk treasurers chose to show that. With that being said, obviously, it looks like we're $14 million over budget from last year to this year. And again, that is that $15 million wastewater project. So there is a loan out with OWDA for that. Mr. 15 million, that's what I call him every day. He loves it. But yes, so for plant upgrades and construction up there, So again, we do have a healthy balance. There is a loan out for that $15 million that was approved by the council already. And I just wanted to make that point that it looks outrageous and that we're just spending all this money, but it's really, John is showing those numbers differently, and I feel they're in a more transparent fashion. So thank you for that. And always great that he can educate me to do something new every day. So just wanted to give you a little explanation. Do you guys have any questions on those numbers?
No, you just answered mine.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next one is the pie chart for the general fund, and I want to point out, because again, it was a little shocking to me. I called Chief Rusky and I said, look, I'm looking at this pie chart and you went up almost $1 million. Like, what is going on? And it was $900,000. So I had some conversations again with the Clerk-Treasurer, and I did know that we did this before. I just didn't realize that you had changed it this year. Previously, health insurance was always budgeted through the Clerk-Treasurer's pie portion and through their balance. Now, John has changed that this year so that it's each department gets their own bills. So 700,000 of that was police and dispatch. Of the change in the budget.
Blamed it on Wes.
I'm blaming it on the treasurer now. No, I'm just kidding. So quite frankly, this is actually, I think, more appropriate to do because it shows the actual cost of the employees per department and health insurance and wages and all of those things. So I just wanted to point that out where it looks like some of the departments have more. A lot of it had to do with the transition and what's taken out of the clerk-treasurer's office that was already there, just in a different pie. Income tax collection. Last year, we had a total of $10,300,000. And for real estate taxes that will be paid to us this year was $467,000. Now, we do have estimates that have not been auditor certified yet. Those usually don't come till the summer. So I do think with the real estate changes, there will be about $100,000 extra in that for the following year. But again, those get certified to the auditor in June or July. Industrial Park Committee, just wanted to give you the list of those. Again, Ms. Leatherman represents council on BIPAC. We appreciate her for that, and we've actually had a pretty busy year after not selling lots for quite a bit. Grants received. This is a chart I started last year because I do think that our department heads definitely need recognized in the grant money they're bringing back to Bryan, Ohio, whether that's state, federal, or local. That number is just a little over $2 million for 2024. Certainly give my appreciation for the hard work that they do trying to research the grants, apply for the grants. I mean, if you've ever written a grant application, it's no short task. So
You're here.
very appreciative of that. Any dollar amount that comes back to Bryan, Ohio for our taxpayers is worth the effort. Our industrial park, we call this South Industrial Park, doesn't have a whole lot left. Lot 28, if you see that number 28, we have an option to purchase on that lot. Lot 24 in red, we also have a first right of refusal option to purchase on that. 23B and 23A, we currently have verbal agreements that we'll find out a little more in June, so those could also be taken up, which leaves us only Lot 15 as open and available. That's 5 acres, and honestly, that would have to be something pretty small as far as height because it's right in the flight zone from the airport. So we're pretty excited that we've got this movement and these options out there, and the industrial park continues to grow. Even more exciting, we were able to sell 15 acres in the industrial park. Big thank you to Brian Whelan for that. Working with Doc's Diesel, which if you drive out there, you can tell has some construction going on. Max is local. He had a local business in Bryan, and he is expanding, and we were able to connect him with Wedco, who was able to also get him some grant dollars from Jobs Ohio for this expansion. Still actively marketing this 59 acres for anything, whether we split it or keep it whole, but any businesses. And our new Regional Growth Partners Director is actually a local. His name is Jim Wise. He came over here from Archibald, so he came last week to meet with me and make sure that we had face-to-face introductions. He replaced Mike J., who had been at RGP for quite a number of years. So it's nice to have someone within the very Northwest Ohio representing that quadrant of the state. Projects for 2025, I'm going to skip the ones that Bryan went over, which are most of these, but we did add a couple that were not on your initial PowerPoint that Christie laid out. As you recall, we are transferring from paper POs to everything electronic, which is the VIP system. Initial phases of that are going extremely well, and John and his staff will be working on getting the rest of the departments up. But for now, the Clerk-Treasurer's office, Christie, the Police Department, and myself do have access to that. So Christie and I were the testers, and so far, I think we're passing. Is that fair? So we're going to start to work to get the other departments on. Chronos upgrade, that is the timekeeping software. As you know, that's something we're going to share with BMU so that everybody's on the same timekeeping software. We did budget this year for a strategic plan community-wide, and we are going to engage in a non-bargaining unit wage compensation plan for the employees that are not union, which we will be working on with HR in the next few months. Amtrak station upgrades. I've had many, many questions about whether the Amtrak project is still on, giving some of the federal funding pullbacks. From everything that's been indicated to me today, I would say that the project is still going forward. It's been bid, it's been awarded. But the new Amtrak team, because Derek James retired from Amtrak in October, so we have a new Amtrak team from Chicago that's going to be coming in the next week or two. They're on my calendar. I just can't remember if it's next week or the week after. So I'll be sitting down and meeting with them and having more in-depth discussions. But for everything today that I know, that project is still going to move forward. Safe routes to school map, I just wanted to provide you with a map of that. If you recall, when we bid that out, it actually goes on the opposite side of the street of what it is now, and a lot of that had to do with elevations of property, and most cost-effective way to get that continued down to Main Street. So that's why it jumps over after Noble Drive. Anyone have any questions? No?
No, could you just answer?
No, that's great.
I was
Okay,
going to
well-
ask about the sidewalk, so thank you.
Yeah, council, I certainly appreciate all that you have done and provided this community for the last 12 months. It's a lot of work that people don't always see. Appreciate it, especially when I call you at weird times of the evening to bounce things off of you individually. Department heads, appreciate your leadership in the city. Tyson, well done on the streets.
Yes.
Really,
Thank you.
they look great, and I know you guys work hard. And to the employees of the city, we really do have a lot of great staff, and I hope the citizens, I get compliments from the citizens, which are nice. It's nice to not always get complaints, but I just like to point out the work they do throughout the year. So we're looking forward to another busy, productive 2025.
Tyson, do you have everybody out on Sunday?
He's going to talk to you about that if you go around the room.
Cool.
All right, let's go around the room. John, do you have anything? Department heads, Tyson?
Couple thank yous, and I guess fill you in on what happened this weekend, or last week. We were short, starting Thursday, 3 guys at the street department, and I knew that was gonna happen because of a couple medical issues and a planned vacation. So I called Derek Schultz Wednesday morning and asked if he could send a couple guys to help us out, knowing we were gonna have these storms. And Thursday morning, we went out at 2 a.m., and he called me back and told me Rocky Barris from the water department could help us Thursday. So Rocky came in Thursday morning with us, and then yesterday morning, Rocky came back and Gus Holbert came in and helped us. So with those 2 guys from the water department, we were done in a normal amount of time. If they had not helped, we would have been out there 2 or 3 hours longer than normal. So I want to thank Derek and Jimmy Dunning from the water department, and Rocky and Gus for helping us out, and the rest of the guys for stepping up and doing more than they normally do, covering the routes that weren't covered by the guys that were gone. So
Do you have
That's
a
Definitely,
question
thank you.
for you? So I've seen this ATV with a plow on the front of it plowing sidewalks,
that's
It's the Parks
and Recs.
Department.
like along Union Street and,
those
That
are
could be
the bike paths.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking, that, I would agree, that would make sense, and I wouldn't have asked it, but this is not.
Private.
Is it feral? It could be
Feral.
private.
Is
Yeah,
it?
there's-
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen them all over town.
Yeah.
So
following
they're
sidewalks.
allowed to run ATVs.
John Deere,
during
maybe?
Storms.
Yeah,
They're, it's
that's
more.
Yeah,
private.
there's 3 or 4 landscaping or snow removal companies that have utility vehicles they plow sidewalks with.
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons I started paying attention to it, because when I watched you guys coming down Union to turn into Union Place, I saw this ATV like following nearby, so I didn't know if that was
Yeah, that's
your
not
guys or,
ours.
that's not yours, it's good, okay. That's part of the reason, so thank you, appreciate that.
And we
Thank
do
you.
have a gator that parks use for the park
Any other
Properties.
department head?
sidewalks.
Newspapers? May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved?
I'll second.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.